So on this issue with the Marshman choking, basically they investigated the whistleblower by sending the letter that divulged this for DNA analysis, because it wasn't Marshman who was implicated as the strangler child abuser. It was the whistleblower in the family who had come out with this. And I don't know how far they got with their witness intimidation, but that's not how things are supposed to work. Additionally, the story goes that Marshman came out about the strangulation, drywall, head smashing, bruising of his son's neck 2 days after being appointed chief, which, of course, we can't trust the mayor because he's so dodgy and lies all the time. But supposing this 2-day time span happened, that is very much more reputable than the 29-day, 30-day time span with the O'Day shooting. So one thing I see immediately is that in the wake of a tragedy, like a very severe thing, like we frequently dispatch grievance counselors to a scene of a school shooting or something like that. And I feel like what was not dealt with in this community is that people had a serious collapse of faith and trust, which I kind of started to see that you guys, RW, became the fall guy for what had been a previous pattern of behavior that started before you with aggressive or passive-aggressive tendencies with the mayor that really escalated. And so I think in some ways, because you guys don't go to city council meetings constantly, or I assume you don't watch the footage, there has been an escalating attempt to delimit speech that has now progressed towards massive malicious prosecutions of just about, I mean, like any activist who walks into city council is victim to this egregious violence. So I think the strangulation issue with Marshman, I do know I pitched the Ben Pickering story to him, and part of why I like the Ben Pickering story is around the time that the city started saying, oh, we don't even need to be in this lawsuit because we're already making such drastic improvements. I was like, oh, that's cool, but here we are with a blind, brain damaged, Coast Guard rescue, traumatic brain injury victim who's on the streets having his skull crushed by Carl Klunt and COAB in these really disturbing circumstances, including evidence destruction, where the video was actually wiped out at the bar, and the bar confided that when we were doing our own piecework, trying to piece it all together. And so what I felt was important as a case study is that a lot of us, some of whom know about different cases, we all have different experience levels where the statistical analysis is probably brilliant, but it can be both over our heads sometimes, and I think it can also just feel a little cold. And I think what was really missing from the first, are we in a year or two, is more human interface. And like, for instance, with everyone flipping out about the Bud Fearless David Keefe Davis controversy, to me, I was like, he's a human being. What's going on? Oh, he's Jewish. Like, oh, that's the worst thing ever. And I think I knew that David Keefe Davis had been clobbered by Michael Cohen, while Engstrom, who was the officer who also assaulted me, was assaulting Barry Stull. And I know Barry Stull. He goes to city council and gives about the same speech every time. And he's very smart, and he was so thrilled about the DOJ case, but city council wanted to exclude him, harass him, work him up into a state, like literally gaslight him in the chamber on camera, and then they take David Keefe Davis down November 25th of 2015, and then launch this, now it's like a 12-month prosecution of him. So I think taking what you began to see in the COAB meetings, I think in a sense the COAB meetings were in a larger context of what is happening in the city with the homeless crisis and such. I feel like I'm going on a bit long, but you kind of, I mean, because you're from Chicago, I think it's cool personally, because I think East Coast and West Coast have great things to offer. But I think in terms of what Merleviani Riviera Perez, is that right, said, she was talking about issues with how the concept of mental illness is perceived. And at the original fairness hearing, I had brought up issues about medical anthropology and Foucault and like conceptions of madness and you guys, I think in some ways, I was personally deeply offended by the article that was published in the Oregonian on about, I think it was the morning of the 29th or so, or 28th, that was saying, oh, mental illness is no excuse for bad behavior, basically. And the thing that I felt about it was that it seemed to... Well, anyway, it just so happened that that morning I got beaten up at city council. So it I didn't have much time to process it, but I felt like my riding in on my white horse from Astoria to try to help, because Vianney says, hey, maybe you could join the COAB and be on the board. I kind of got sold into the glamour of, oh, I live far away. I've been dealing with Ben's crisis for so long now. Nobody will help me. The whole system's failed me. So maybe I should get involved. And then I immediately get signed up to be a scapegoat, beat up and brutalized. And I still don't even know where my internal affairs investigation is going, because they're like going at a grinding pace. Like, it's been 4 months.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
If you don't mind,
I could talk for hours, but you're tired. No.
Well, everybody is. And I know they
yeah, other people want to speak, sure.
And I would like to give, if Amy feels she may not want to respond to your comment about her letter in the Oregonian or not, but...
Well, the thing that's missing is that there was brutality, 6/27, blood spilt on the floor of City Hall. That letter came out, and then I came down to try to help and negotiate for people that are apparently rowdy.
So the timing wasn't good for you, but I think her letter is independent.
But it totally negated the aspect of racial bullying. And that racial bullying, like, I mean, I straight up asked Amy on the Skype connection, are you Jewish? Because to me, that seemed essential. Like, maybe people don't understand if they haven't taken a Jewish studies class. But to me, I was like, whoa, these people are getting paid like whatever, $1 million or something, and I'm just this little person with no money and a computer, and I can write an apology. I can say, David Keefe Davis, I'm sorry you were bullied. Cyberbullying is unacceptable. I don't want to focus too much on that, but I feel like the attitude of kind of being judgmental towards people's mental state when you're depriving them of the context of their larger work, which is surrounding homelessness, addiction, poverty, whatever, like issues.
Okay, so why don't we give Amy a chance if she wants to make a comment, or she doesn't have to at all.
You know,
Anybody else we want to give,
yeah.
Else that wants to say something?